Mitro. Dobro jutro, Mitro. Aj, wow. Wow.
So the first time I saw the film, I saw it, on my big screen, and obviously loved it. And this time I watched it on my computer, which I very, very rare. I do not like watching films on my computer screen.
Right.
But there was something about being up close and personal with this particular film that was mesmerizing. And this shot in particular with the snails, the overhead shot of the snails on the table,
I know.
the snails, being right here with it added a whole other level. And it's very rare that I would appreciate watching a film that close and watching a film on my computer screen, but it was an incredible second watch, I have to tell you. There's a whole other experience when you're right face to face with it.
I agree. The movie really is one of a kind, I think, and it stays with you. And I've seen it now a couple of times, and it really is more beautiful every time. And when you think, to really go shot by shot and how beautifully, it's framed, and it's like a painting every time I see those images. It's just as and again, it is a complete. What for me is an accomplishment is that the director lets the moving images speak. And that's what, we are all about, showing the films that speak, even if you would just turn off any subtitles or not hear the movie needs to speak with images. And this one really does. And it does so beautifully. So I think
it's sort of like, for me, the first time I watched it, and even this time, but specifically the first time, it's sort of like meditation too, where when you sit to meditate and you watch a film like this, one's Western audience, mine, at least I'll speak for myself, is asking questions. Is there going to be dialogue in this?
Yes.
What is there? And after a while, you just the story and the shot starts to speak for itself, and I find myself slowly losing myself to the movie,
yes.
and understanding that you're just sitting witness to what's unfolding, to a day in the life, but through this lens that just captures it all, like everyone said, every shot is a still life, basically, gorgeously. And that's an experience too. It's an experience watching the film. It was an experience for me to just find my sort of chaotic mind, that wants to, has expectations and has slowly give in. And again, the second time watching it, knowing, what it is and just being able to just sit down to it was just incredible. Denise asked, do you know how long it took Maja to shoot the film?
No, I think that, I can't quite remember how long that was, but I think it must have been some time, like over several months that she was coming and going, because she grew up there. That's her childhood. So she really captured all those images of her childhood that stayed with her, and she just decided to, to transfer them to film. But again, it was a labor of love, clearly, and it was done through the Student Film Center. So it's interesting how sometimes the most beautiful things come from, a group of enthusiasts, just like, the movie theater that we support with this co-watch as well, the Frida, and other art house theaters. So because you are so plugged into the art house scene, can you tell us a little bit about that? What is going on, because we can't really lose theaters. And I know you're with the Art House Convergence, so just give us a little bit of information on that and what the organization is doing, and you know, also your team with the Frida.
Sure. Well, similar to SEEfest and, you know, a lot of film festivals, we're finding avenues to keep the mission alive and keep films shared. And for us, it's been streaming, but also drive-in cinema. We've been doing a lot of drive-ins throughout Orange County, where we're located, with our equipment. But also a lot of partnerships, and you know, we've done. We took Horrible Imaginings, which is a film festival that comes every year to the Frida, worked with them, and they did their film festival online, and you know, partnerships like the one we're doing today. Denise, that's a good question, and in that same, how is the transition to streaming being accepted by your audience? Asked Denise. It's slow, you know. There is I think for the most part, my concern was that it would be more of a hesitance to watch films on home screens, which to me, like I mentioned earlier, I'm not a big fan of. But what I've realized is that it's actually more about technological difficulty, you know, and intimidation as to how do I watch this on my television. You know, defining streaming, defining how that works. So there has been some advocacy, some education, some conversation, tutorials to help folks along. So that was interesting, that the hesitance was more about the technology and less about the experience of watching films at home. But we have invested in platforms that allow for app watching, so folks can watch on their smart TVs. But also, it also is about conversation and letting people know that our intent is to reopen. Even if we continue to embrace streaming, and it has actually opened up a lot of doors for what we can show and how many films we can present. You know, we have a 2-screen cinema, and right now we literally have 22 streaming films from around the world, brand new films on our website, which we would not have ever been able to do at the same time at the Frida. So, you know, it's an interesting conversation because it's something I think we're going to continue. And then things like we're doing today, you know, we can have a conversation, Vera and I, from the comfort of our homes and speak to people from around the world, right? This was internationally accessible.
Yes.
Vera?
Globally.
So, globally accessible. And, you know, that's something that we just have not been able to do cinematically. So the mission continues, though. There have been conversations every once in a while. Why don't you just keep doing this? Why do you need to reopen a cinema? There's not a moment where that's even an option. I think that we would never want to lose that opportunity to welcome a community of people to watch a film together and to see it on the big screen. But I certainly think that there's room for this sort of experience in that conversation as well.
It just, I think that, you know, everybody's trying to figure out how do we go from here, because the next 2021 is also very uncertain. I know that you've been doing a lot of drive-through, so you can maybe tell us how that worked. But drive-through is not necessarily a good way to show an art house movie, and we all want
Correct.
to show art house films, you know, so it's a matter of how we balance both the theatrical screening and online on different platforms, and also like this model that Beam is promoting, which is co-watching, which I think is a good way to sort of like remind us how it is when we watch with other people.
Yeah, and speaking of Beam, Vera, do you want to talk about the little symbol everyone has with the hand with a little heart in it?
Yes, absolutely. Oh, yeah. That, you know, this is a joint fundraiser for SEEfest and for the Frida. We are the two nonprofit organizations, and we are doing our really best to keep going, keep showing the films, and also keeping the quality of what we do always up there. And so the little icon with the hand and a heart is for donations. So if you are so inclined, any donation is always, of course, welcome and very, very helpful. So you have that on the top of your chat. You can ask questions, you can make comments, you can make a donation. You can also, you know, express with the emojis how you feel about this event today or the movie. So we urge you that to consider donating for these two nonprofit organizations. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. Yeah, and I'll speak a little bit about my history with SEEfest because I think it does come full circle to today's event. So Vera and her work with SEEfest has been very inspirational to me, and I think it was a good 8 or 9 years ago, so 2 years before the Frida opened, that I went to my first SEEfest, and the film that opened it was a film called Of Snails and Men, which was just remarkable. It was a wonderful film, and it was a packed house in Los Angeles. And they had flown the filmmaker out, and someone in the audience asked, they said, "Oh, and Vera, where was Of Snails and Men from?"
Romania.
Romania. Somebody in the audience asked the director, and there was a translator. That was wonderful. I know my family would love that. Do you know when it'll be playing next? And the director, pointed to the screen and basically said, that was it. As far as a screening in the United States of America, that was it. And then went on to talk about that is why film festivals like SEEfest are important. And in the audience, I think, we kind of have an awareness of that, but in context to just having seen an incredible film and then understanding that if not for SEEfest and Vera's work, I wouldn't have had that experience, the rest of the audience wouldn't have had that experience, and that film would otherwise not find eyes outside of its home country, was really inspirational to me. And so that also goes to where I see the value of streaming opportunities like this and group chats like this, like Denise said, the opportunity to chat with others. It really does expand the kind of films that you can play and the kind of audiences that might be accessible. Because even if SEEfest was able to play this today at a theater like the Frida, I don't imagine everyone in this chat is in Los Angeles, and they may not be able to come. But now SEEfest can play. Then comes the evening, let's say a year from now, cinematically and perhaps online. And that's a really interesting sort of development that's come out of this COVID era, I think.
I think it's also, on us to think creatively and to be quick on our feet and to figure out ways how, so we can't do what we normally do, but we still have to deliver our mission. In some ways, yes, the online has helped expand the audience because we have people from France and from UK and Canada and probably some other places, and then also outside of LA or outside of Santa Ana where the Frida is located. So we are able to bring together an audience that normally would not come together, at least certainly not easily. So I think, there are the benefits that complement what we do theatrically when we show films in the environment that we both love, because it's what movies were made for, the big screen. You can afterwards have a glass of wine and talk with other people face to face. So I think we all miss that direct social contact, but until we are able to do that again, I think at least we have this, that we can communicate with our audience and we can bring guests. Logan, tell us what is next for you at the Frida, and tell us just a few words also about drive-ins and what was your experience with drive-ins.
Sure, and I do want to echo what Denise has said. Thank you, Mihai, for creating this platform. I agree. A lot of people, it wasn't just the art houses and the film festivals that needed to find new avenues. It was folks that would partner and figure out, like Kino Marquee and all the way to Beam, opportunities for art houses and film festivals to be able to not just share their films, but go a step further and create platforms for donations, to create a platform for group chatting, ideas and functionality like expanding the screen when we're not chatting, and all these things just to enhance that experience. The drive-ins have been going very well, but like you said earlier, they're not, as opposed to streaming, the drive-ins come with such an extraordinary expense to put on every time. And so unfortunately, you sort of have to lean towards larger, shore audience films, which is to say we've gone the independent route. But we can't take the risks that we used to be able to take at the Frida, and that's one of the things that I love the most about the Frida and about what I do is the risk taking. To say, there is this incredible small off the radar film from another country or from here that is incredible, and we'd love to share it. And if 7 people come, then those 7 people have been enriched, and hopefully more come, but that's okay. It's harder to take those programming risks at the drive-in which again is where streaming cinema has provided such an incredible opportunity. So long as the filmmaker or the distributor is comfortable with the idea of their film being streamed, and now with platforms like Beam and Eventive, that there are DRMs, there's a way to encrypt and protect copyright. It has allowed us to continue to share short and feature films that maybe we wouldn't be able to put the drive-in experience behind, but still have that opportunity. That being said, we have written a couple of grants specifically to be able to do drive-in presentations of off-the-radar international independent films. I would love to do that. I don't see any reason why a drive-in can't be playing shorts like Then Comes the Evening, outside of needing to find a way to make sure to cover oneself as an organization. And that's sometimes where grants come in and sponsors. But right now we're sort of both. We're drive-ins and streaming. And I think when we reopen, we are looking to keep both of those going.
I see behind you two posters, and there's Almodovar. So you are between Almodovar and yes, and Hal Ashby, Harold and Maude, one of the movies we all love. So I think that this speaks about all the great movies that when they came out were also considered films that are not mainstream, that are not, they're just purely, labors of love, or they were made art house film. And now they're classics. So that's what we have to remember. I think that whatever, sometimes people say, well, this is really not, commercial, what's the future of this? But then we have to remember that it's the art house movies that made, push the medium forward, and then made it possible for other filmmakers to incorporate, the type of filmmaking or some, discoveries that others made for them. And then that sort of transfers eventually into commercial cinema. So we have to remember what is the role of the avant-garde, of those that come first with, and in case of Then Comes the Evening, that poetry of an observational documentary that just, draws you in, and you really live there with those two women. You live what director lived through. So it's very hard to do.
And as a matter of fact, the Almodovar one is actually a painting. So we did an Almodovar art show in the lobby. We have rotating art shows that are tied to film in some facet or another. So we did an Almodovar film retrospective and did an art show, and that was a piece that I just fell in love with and purchased because I love that film. But the reason we do that is to further the conversation that cinema is a work of art. And I often say, curators at a museum, what they do is they hang art made by artists onto walls. And I say art houses, as curatorial art houses, we also hang art on the walls. The art that we hang up moves and makes noise for a couple of hours, and then we take it down and put up another piece of art. And that's how I look at film. Film is works of art, and I think that conversation gets lost sometimes because of let's say the industry, the Hollywood machine and whatnot, and not to knock Hollywood films, but it's important to remember that, and to keep that conversation going, that this is an art form. It's a culture. It's a language. No doubt the folks in this room speak the language of cinema, love cinema, are inspired, moved, are filmmakers. And so that work, your work, our work is, I think, crucially important. And so again, Beam, thank you. Any opportunity to keep the mission going. It's been inspiring to see, like you mentioned, that the art house convergence, to see and to collaborate with different art houses and see how we are all facing this moment and moving forward in whatever way we can to keep films shared. So I agree. A couple of questions here. Oh, Kelly says, in the future, it would be great to create more synergy between the theatrical experience and the streaming experience. I do believe there is so much to explore regarding how these two can complement each other. I agree. And as a matter of fact, with Horrible Imaginings, which has been a film festival that we've done live at the theater for 2 years, and then streaming this year, we're already talking about how do we do both? How do we use the platforms to sort of do both? How do we maybe have a live theatrical experience that's also being broadcast, where the Q&A can welcome people from around the world, but using these new platforms? Denise asks, and forgive me if Nikika, I'm going to say Nikika, but forgive me if I'm saying that wrong. Does Maja have a background in art or painting? is a really good question because I wondered the same. A lot of Dutch sort of, gorgeous.
Oh yeah,
Gorgeous,
she's a graduate of fine arts, and but she's also working in the science and mathematics department of the Academy of Sciences. So she's one of those multi-talented people. But she is working now on her PhD in Parajanov cinema, the poetics of cultural heritage in Parajanov movies. So I think it just fits so beautifully with what she has shown in her first film, which we saw, the Then Comes the Evening, because she clearly is drawn to the cinema of the predecessors who were doing that so beautifully. And but she, yes, her background is in fine arts, and that's why you can kind of see that every frame was just so beautifully arranged as a tableau. And this one is authentic. So that's very hard to do, and she managed.
And again, going back to the interesting things you discover when you watch a film in a different context. Like I mentioned earlier that I don't normally watch movies on my computer screen, but I did for this, and it gave me a whole new perspective of just the imagery. But also, this was the first time I'd watched it right in my ear because of the fact that we're doing a chat and I didn't want echoing sound. The sound of this film was incredible. And I have to imagine that was for the director a big element as well, because there were some moments where I'm like, if I didn't trust that this is real sound, I would say the Foley work in this movie was incredible, but I know I'm hearing the real thing. So that was something else. I mean, it's just so sensory and so beautiful and so rich. And it says a lot that I maybe loved it twice as much the second time I watched it, so yeah.
That's that type of, we just need, I think that's our role also to keep, pushing these films out there so that to be seen and appreciated, but it really does stand out from all other, short docs, or it's right up with the best of them this year. So I think that's what we both appreciate in movie making. So
absolutely. And Denise has a question that calls back to my experience 7 years ago at SEEfest, which is, I need to see it again. So much to notice about the nature of the place. How does one have access to see this again? Is it available anywhere? Is it?
No, it's really not. That's the problem. There are no distributors for short films. I do speak with some distributors, but there's always the same answer. They say, we love these films, they are wonderful, but they still want to make money. And they have to, I think it's on us to really package these films in some ways, to make a selection, to curate this, and to be partners with distributors, to say, okay, we think that it can be maybe applicable to educational market, to universities or colleges or certain other research institutes or people who are interested in an environment. I think there is, or maybe television. Somebody has to champion these movies. And I think that's where we come. That's our job. What do you think? Do you think that it's possible, knowing how things are and where we are, that maybe public television would be the right place to go?
Yeah, I mean, it's the advocacy is part of the work, to public television, but also, things like what we're doing today. Beam, the Frida has our own streaming channel now through Eventive, so we can certainly talk about that in terms of curating something that can be rented, 24/7. But yeah, I mean, the work is, I guess, on those who feel the value of making sure that the films are accessible to the world. So, that's sort of what we've already set ourselves out to do.
We have a wonderful comment here from Mija. Yeah. Yes, I finally was able to access chat. Beam is happy to help with the distribution of the movie. Yes, that would be wonderful. Thank you. 3 cheers for Beam. It would be really great because it needs to be seen, and I think that it's such a perfect example of something that is just tops in every category. If you want to talk about the cinematography or the storytelling, the perfect length, everything in this film is just life affirming, I think, and it also captures, which is very difficult to do, cultural heritage. So it would be great to work with you, Mihai, at Beam, it really would be great.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Wonderful.
And then
So
it looks like
we have accomplished something. Where's the champagne? You know, we need to tap ourselves on the shoulder. Yes, the two warriors for Art House Cinema. You know, we did make some breakthrough. Thank you with our partners at Beam. So it's really cool. Oh, okay. We'll open the champagne.
And I want to make sure that, because I don't know if anyone else has their chat closed, but if they do, one thing you may have missed is that the film does have a festival run, and you can follow it on Facebook. So it's facebook.com/Then Comes the Evening. So the title of the film, facebook.com/Then Comes the Evening, to follow the film's festival run. But it looks, I mean, it's like you mentioned. I mean, there hasn't been a festival that it hasn't won an award at, and it so richly deserves it. Yes. It really does.
I mean, it's over 80 awards and nominations. That's just is astounding. The films like this, they have a life just beyond only that. You know, this film leads you to all kinds of, you know, ideas about life, about environment, about the ecology, about this moment in time in humanity and what we are dealing with. You know, it really brings all these things that really matter in life. It brings them into focus.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know about you, but I wanted a very interesting thought that I had was, next opportunity I get, I'm taking off my shoes and I'm planting my bare foot into soil.
Yes.
I feel like that would help put these last 9 months in some perspective. Like when that, yeah, there's a lot. It's interesting. It's one of those movies too that you know, one goes through their own sort of mental journey while they're watching and experiencing something like this, because there is no, you know, aside, I think, from the scene where she's praying or calling out for her harvest, I don't believe there's dialogue outside of that. I might be wrong if there's a little bit here and there. So it's really what's in your head and what you're watching and hearing. And I kept thinking, like, I would love to know in some kind of weird way what goes through people's minds as they watch this film. You know, what are they thinking about? What shots echo back to them, you know, and communicate with them. What are they thinking about food? What are they thinking about the way their days, work, everything, you know, because that's where my head was going. And then when that shot came, I was like, just to put your foot in soil. I don't remember the last time I took the opportunity to do that. Little things.
But you see, kids do that. You take small kids to a park or anywhere else, the first thing they do, they will take off their shoes because they still have that, you know, that connection, and that it's like it comes naturally to them. Yep. Whereas for us, you know, with all these layers of civilization that we have to shed, you know, we just forget what, you know, how wonderful it is to just, you know, like, immerse yourself into the, you know, water or just the land, or just get your feet, free our feet the way how it is here, where it's all, it comes naturally. And, you know, and how they deal with the storm and hail, because they want to protect the crops. There is something, you know, that you feel you're part with nature. You know, you speak to the nature, and they really do. It's a ritual that is not made up. And she uses her her wedding dress, the white wedding dress, to ward off, you know, hail, because it may ruin the crops. So I think it's somebody, Lika says the apple stayed with her. Yes, I mean those real organic apples, I think, for sure.
And the colors and just of the apples and all of it, just incredible. Yeah.
Tell me, Logan, what are the films that you're looking forward to in this Oscar season? Anything that, you know, you have seen maybe that you want to recommend?
I have a lot to catch up on. I'll be honest with you. I'm looking forward to seeing Nomadland. It looks fantastic, and I've heard nothing but wonderful things about it. I still haven't seen First Cow, which I hear wonderful things about. Yeah. I think the movies that stood out for me this year, His House was absolutely remarkable, absolutely incredible. You know, for those that maybe are intimidated by it because of it being a horror genre film, it is very much a horror film. It gets scary, but it's so much more layered and beautiful and political and incredible than that. I like seeing how there's been a resurgence, I think, of horror as a genre to discuss real world problems, international problems, and his house is just an incredible example of that. That's streaming right now, I think on Netflix, if memory serves.
I will mention that, I don't know if you've seen a documentary film, The Dissident, about the
yes, I did. Yes. Oh my God, that was very intense.
That was a real, that movie really stayed with me.
It's heartbreaking and it's enraging.
Yes.
And it is an enraging film. Documentary, Finding Ying Ying was incredible, very depressing, but I think a remarkable watch in terms of as you're watching it, just being like, if not for somebody deciding to pick up a camera and film this, we would have we are given access to this story, which is just so powerful. That was incredible. 76 Days. Was an incredible documentary about the lockdown in Wuhan, and you're just right there with medical workers dealing with the first wave of illness during a lockdown. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm not so behind on those because they're all coming back to me. I haven't seen Collective yet.
Yeah, Collective is
fantastic.
Yes, it really is. It's Romania's submission for the Oscars. It's a really great movie. So Romania always delivers. I think there are some strong films out there. I'm very much looking forward to the Minari, about the Korean family, the immigrant family. Have you seen it by any chance?
I have not.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, Bakura was another one I saw this year.
Yes. And that was Kino Lorber. Yeah,
sort of a surprising in terms of genre and how it moved around and played with genres conventions, but that was a great one. There's and it's great to see that how these platforms have popped up to make sure that and I want to give, it's important to give Kino Marquee and all of these independent distributors that are working with art houses and Beam credit, because the easiest thing in the world would be to just take the film straight to Amazon, straight to Netflix, straight to Hulu, and they'd have an immediate international audience. And it would leave the art house out of the conversation and completely out of its role to share and advocate. And so I commend all of the independent distributors that rather than go that route, or maybe they eventually go that route, but first they partner with the art houses. They give the art houses an opportunity to advocate for the films and share the films to their audiences. And so I think that's a commendable thing.
Right. And I think that, with Beam, as we keep developing the format, I think we have a wonderful partner that, allows us to really get out there with the type of programming that we believe would, eventually, cultivate an audience and a bigger global audience. So I think having the global access and being able to share these movies, and if we go even a step further, as, Mihai suggested that he would be interested in seeing how Beam can support distribution of films, art house movies. I think that would be terrific. I absolutely believe they have an audience, but we have to work on that audience. And if we have a partner like Beam, we can do it.
Yeah, and the other really neat thing about Beam too, which we didn't use today, obviously, because we wanted to give folks the opportunity to just experience the film, is that it does allow you, like if this was a different kind of a context of a chat and there was a lecture element, to pause the film, to speak over the film, to allow the audience to mute the speakers if they want to just watch the film. I mean, we've, as an art house, we have worked with a variety of different streaming services that the art houses put together. We have also worked with a variety for films that we were sharing on our own platforms. And I feel that Beam sort of took, the best parts of a lot of them and put them together into one, usable platform. And so, it's exciting to partner with you, Beam, and to have discovered you and to be able to do this today.
Yep.
For sure.
No. Thank you. And thank you, Logan. We actually sustained a pretty good audience throughout the movie, so that it stayed with people and people really, wanted to see the film through. But, to be repeated, we will keep in touch with everybody who signed in. And thank you for the donations. Thank you so much to Beam for hosting us, for having us on this platform. And yes, and my colleague Logan, and Almodovar is watching, Hal Ashby is watching us, and they approve. They approve.
Good.
Yes, they approve. So adios until the next one. Thank you, everybody. So thank you to our audience. Thank you to Maja for giving us this beautiful film.
Yes, thank you. Incredible. Thanks for sharing it. Thanks for allowing us to share it in this platform. And honestly, everyone who watched it, you are fortunate for the experience. And Vera, thank you for doing the work you do. I have been moved by this film twice now, and everyone in this chat was able to experience it because of your efforts and because of your advocacy and your relationships that you have built over the years, and the trust that folks put in you with their works. So I'm so glad to know you, and I'm so glad I'm honored to have been invited and talk about it. Thank you.
We're on the same side. Absolutely.
Question, Vera. Was there a film or a group of films or an experience that motivated you and inspired you to start SEEfest?
I always loved movies. I spent my life in dark theaters in the Cinematheque. For me, it was this idea that we shouldn't be separating ourselves along certain borders. The region that I come from in Southeast Europe is very interesting and very culturally rich. But that richness comes through when you sort of you take the camera and you pull back, and then you see, the totality of the place, and then you see the beauty and the artistic potential. And that was my motivation, that, why just go, piecemeal? I want to sort of present that as a whole. I think it's kind of, at that time, now we would call it a holistic, organic approach. But I felt that that's the way to do this, because, it's not just American film. It's not just Mexican film. It's not just French cinema. It's not just a Korean cinema. It's cinema. And, and I felt that, in order to put this interesting region that is so culturally rich and with a troubled history, but there is always a positive, even with the troubled history, is that it produces wonderful stories, powerful stories. So I felt that this needs to have a platform, and that we show all of these films, and then all of a sudden you see the beauty of what is out there. So that was my motivation. And
that's great.
And so now it's like 18 countries, almost 20 countries that we cover. And we are now discovering other layers of art and culture and history and traditions. So so this is what we are working on.
That's so great. That's so great. And then when was the first SEEfest?
It was in 2006, but before that, for 3 years, I was doing it as a project. And it was called the Sarajevo Project, of course, because I come from Sarajevo. So it was sort of testing the ground, and when we saw, hey, this has legs, then I was the founder, and I got a group of friends. We got together, we had dinner, we decided we're going to go ahead, and that was the beginning. So it was 2006 officially when SEEfest was incorporated as a nonprofit. So it's been 15 years, and we're now going into our 16th.
And it was always in Los Angeles, yeah?
It was always in Los Angeles. We've done programs in Austin, Texas. We have been in San Francisco, San Diego, Santa Ana.
County. Santa Ana.
Santa Ana, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. And I think that there is a way, to do the traveling, and thanks to Beam, I think we can do traveling beyond just California or the U.S. So that's the beauty. I think we have to think of the online, that it's not always an impediment. No, it's a wonderful complementary forum and platform for movies. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Yes, happy holidays.
Wonderful holiday season. Stay safe.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Logan. Bye.
Bye, Vera. You stay safe. Bye-bye.